Hello and welcome to the final episode of 2023 of Movies You Missed podcast. I'm Vee.
I'm John.
And we are two industry veterans who love to recommend movies to you without spoiling them.
No spoilers here.
Thank you everyone who has tuned in this year to our podcast. If you listen to every episode or if you've just joined us, thank you so much for giving us a shot, and we hope you are enjoying the movies we are recommending, and maybe that's giving you some ideas for new movies to watch.
Indeed. Thank you guys very much for a very, very successful 2023 here at Movies You Missed podcast.
And we're going to keep going.
Hell yeah.
2024, here we come.
Indeed. We got the Oscars coming up soon and our 2023 wrap-up coming up in January, which I'm very excited about.
Yes, so we have special episodes airing actually in January, February, and March coming up, so stay tuned for those. 2023 Wrapped airs in January. Our reviewer-requested episode airs in February. Congratulations again to Clarissa and Steve on that one.
Yeah.
And our Oscars episode is in March.
Hell yeah, Oscar season's coming!
So that is our plan for the next couple of months. We hope you continue to join us. And this episode being the last episode not only of 2023, but also December, means it's another Christmas holiday episode.
Indeed, the final one, which is quite sad, to be honest with you, because I just love Christmas so much. It's probably because my birthday is Christmas Eve, and I've just always loved Christmas Eve and Christmas. And the fact that it's over just sucks.
The fact that it's over makes you sad, not the movies, right?
Oh, yes.
They were happy movies this week.
Oh, yeah. Very happy movies, very feel-good movies. I continually watch Christmas movies until usually New Year's Eve, especially the ones that I didn't get a chance to watch. There's a few that are not necessarily Christmas movies that I do watch, one of them in particular being Sweeney Todd with Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, that came out around Christmas, and I went and saw it with some friends of mine at the ArcLight Cinema in Hollywood, so I've kind of kept that tradition alive, even if only on my own, watching Sweeney Todd every December.
I hate that movie.
Yeah, I know you do. I don't. I like it quite a bit. Johnny Depp might be the lowest point of that movie, but Sacha Baron Cohen is so good in it.
Alan Rickman's the highlight of that movie for me.
That's true. He is great as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good movie.
No, it's not. But I'm happy for you.
It is what it is.
And as always, before we get into the movies we picked this week, we like to discuss the new movies we saw either on streaming or in theaters.
Yes, it is, and I made it back to the theaters this week, which I was very excited for. So, V, do you mind if I jump in first? Jump in the ring first?
Please do.
All right. I went to the theater on the 23rd to check out the new Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Maura Tierney, Holt McCallany, and Lily James-led The Iron Claw, which is the true story based off of the Von Erich brothers and family that were very intensely competitive in the world of professional wrestling. When I heard about this movie, all I knew was Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White were in it. I also knew Lily James was in it because I'm a big, huge Lily James fan. And I knew it was a true story based on wrestling. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else about this movie, about this family. I didn't do any research. And I absolutely loved this movie. This movie is fantastically well done. Zac Efron is just showing even more how talented this guy is as an actor. Jeremy Allen White was pretty good. I'm not a big, huge fan of The Bear, but I liked him in this movie. This movie made me cry 4 times over the 2.5 hours length of this movie. It is a heartbreaking story for those that may know anything about the Von Erich family, which, again, I did not. But again, beyond the heartbreak of it all, the movie is fantastically well done, incredibly well acted. Everybody in this movie delivers a tour de force performance. I don't think I've ever used that term in this podcast, in the longevity of the podcast. It is truly a sight to be seen. I highly recommend seeing this movie. It is R-rated. There's a lot of language in the movie. Other than that, it's about wrestling, so it gets a little bit intense here and there, but I could not stop talking about it at dinner that night with my family. I was just like, this movie is fantastic. I really hope a lot more people will see it. Absolutely see it in theaters if you can. And another cool Easter egg of this movie is a friend of mine, Chelsea Edmondson, who is a follower of the podcast and an actress and has been for a long time. She showed up in the movie, and I had no clue she was in the movie. So It was really awesome, to be involved in this movie as a spectator and then see a friend of mine walk in to a scene. I was like, holy shit, Chelsea's in this movie. So I reached out to her immediately after getting out of the theater and being like, Chelsea, congratulations for being in the Iron Claw. And I think she and her sisters actually went and saw it on Christmas Day, so she got to share that with her family, which was pretty awesome. But absolutely 2 thumbs up. Zac Efron is fantastic in this movie. I said to my wife, I was like, I loved watching him except for his hair, but again, this movie is set in the 70s and 80s, so the hair was completely of the time. But overall, V, I think you would very much enjoy it. I highly, highly recommend anybody that has any interest in this movie at all, or if you're even a Zac Efron fan, give it a shot, because it really is, it grabs you by the heartstrings, but it's also so well done. So that was what I saw over the weekend.
That's fantastic. I've been hearing wonderful things about that film and his performance, and so I'm so glad to hear it from you. And
yes.
I definitely, given your strong endorsement, I definitely want to see this movie. I think while I'm still with my family this week, I want to take one of my sisters and we'll go together and watch it.
There you go. And another cool thing about it, every time I share on our Instagram page and my personal page, I tag everybody. And Lily James came by my personal page, which made the 23rd an even better day. So thank you, Lily James. Thank you. Great movie. But V, you watched something on streaming this weekend, I believe.
I did. I'm a little late to the party, but it is streaming now, so I definitely want to recommend it since it is a 2023 movie. It's a movie you saw at the beginning of the year, actually, because you saw it in theaters. Yes. It is now on Amazon Prime. It's called Polite Society. It is about 2 Indian young women who are sisters living in England. It was really fun. I was surprised because I didn't realize it was a very fantastical movie. I thought it was much more reality-based, but there's the fights are, kind of insane, right? And
yes.
Definitely those type of fights that are found in like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or I believe a lot of Bollywood movies. And so I definitely want to give people a heads up that they need to expect a little bit more fantastical movie, but the story itself is reality based, and so it is a lot of fun, and the actors are fantastic. I loved both the sisters and the mother-in-law. She was great. And
yes.
It was just a really fun story that was a bit nutso, that was a ton of fun, and that made it really entertaining, right? And so I really enjoyed it. My sister liked it too. We loved all the costumes. They were gorgeous. And so, it was definitely a fun women empowerment movie. I think showing your teenage daughters this movie would be a lot of fun. And
sure.
And I believe it's rated PG-13, right?
It is PG-13,
okay,
yes.
Great. And so I think that's an appropriate rating. So I can totally see why you had as much fun in the movie, watching the movie as you said you did. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I checked it off my list and added it to my 2023 list of movies that I have seen and now recommend.
Awesome. Yes, I'm glad you enjoyed it as well. How was that what the fuck moment? Wasn't that pretty nuts?
Yes.
So crazy.
I was curious the entire movie about this plot point, and finally when they revealed it, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Super out of the fucking left field.
Yes.
I loved it. I think that was another reason why I just was like, beyond, some of the stuff we've seen before in movies with a lot of white actresses, of course, but the way it was executed was great because it wasn't expected, and the reveal of everything, no spoilers at all, but if you've not seen Polite Society, get ready for a what the fuck moment for sure.
Yeah, in a good way, and I loved the insight into Pakistani culture. That was really interesting for me and a good experience, and so I definitely am happy that it's a movie that's not starring Americans. It's not an American-made movie, and I'm stretching my repertoire a bit, and I think that's really important for all of us whenever we're experiencing art. And so I'm now a fan of these actresses and this storytelling, and like I said, I definitely recommend it.
Sweet. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I think until we do our 2023 wrap-up, we can continue to discuss the movies we saw this week, even if they're 2023 movies, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay, so that'll be the cutoff for the next couple weeks, even into 2024. Before our wrap-up, we will talk about the movies we either saw in theaters or on streaming, and then I guess we'll have to start watching 2024 movies.
I guess so.
And hopefully 2024 is as good a year as the last 2 years have been.
I truly hope so. 2023 has been quite a good year cinematically.
Yeah, it was pretty solid. Well, as always, good or bad, we will continue to discuss movies on this podcast. And as we said, this week is the last Christmas week, and I believe you go first.
I believe I do.
All right, John, let's deck those halls one last time.
One last time before we jump into 2024. This movie actually came to us this final Christmas episode here at Movies You Miss Podcast as a suggestion from my wife. I originally had another movie that I chose that I watched that, while I enjoyed some of the movie, it just didn't feel like it would be the right movie to end Christmas month with. So I chose a movie that actually did not have a theatrical release. It was originally planned for a theatrical release when it went into production in 2017, but Disney decided to release it as one of the first few Disney Plus features when Disney Plus launched in November of 2019.
No way!
Yes, way. So oddly enough, with the fact that it was released on Disney Plus and not in theaters, I couldn't find a single thing about the budget.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because remember, listeners and V, when I did Soul had a theatrical and a Disney Plus release. So we had all the information of the worldwide box office, we had the box office here domestically, we had the budget, etc., right? This movie was just released on streaming.
But you have picked a movie that never had a theatrical release and has only ever been released on streaming. Prey.
Oh, that's right.
And
yes.
Remember, you only had the budget information. There was no theatrical information for that.
No theatrical information. Excellent fucking movie. Amber Midthunder, released on Hulu, not theatrically, but I did get the budget info on that one, just there was no box office info because, again, released on streaming, just like this movie. And I'm talking about the movie titled Noelle, starring Anna Kendrick, Bill Hader, Shirley MacLaine, Kingsley Ben-Adir, Billy Eicher, and Julie Haggerty. Julie Haggerty, I'm a big fan of. She is in one of my favorite Christmas movies that V vetoed, called Just Friends. She plays Ryan Reynolds' mother. She always plays a similar character. Even when she showed up in this movie, when Amy and I were watching it just the other day, she goes, oh, she plays the same character and everything. Like, yeah, she kind of is a Mrs. Claus in just about every movie.
Which is okay because she's great with that character. I absolutely adore her as the mom and she's the man.
Oh, that's right. She is and she's the man. Yeah. I always go back to Airplane.
Me too,
and What About Bob with Richard Dreyfuss and Bill Murray, which is a great, great movie as well.
It is.
So Noelle is a sweet little movie. I actually saw this when it came out on Disney Plus. Like I said, my wife did go to an early screening of it. So when she saw it, she actually didn't see a lot of the special effects finished. She saw a lot of storyboards and stuff like that, and she ended up really enjoying it. She went with a friend of hers, and they both thought it was very sweet. And I like Anna Kendrick. I've never not really liked Anna Kendrick. I didn't think she necessarily needed to be nominated for an Oscar for Up in the Air, but I love her in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
The Accountant with Ben Affleck. She's good in that.
Oh, I didn't even know she was in that. I haven't seen that movie.
Mm-hmm. And of course,
the Pitch Perfect movies.
Yes, the first two are good.
Which I haven't. I think I watched about 8 minutes of the first one, and that was enough for me. Just not for me. Amy's a big fan of those movies as well, and I know she's in Into the Woods, which I never did see. I hear a lot of people just did not like Into the Woods. I still kind of want to see it.
I'm in the exact same boat. Everybody has told me in my circle that it's trash. It's absolutely atrocious. But the Disney fan in me, the musical fan in me, kind of still wants to watch it just to cross it off my list. And so, look, the next time I come over, let's just watch it and we can throw popcorn together at the TV.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hopefully I'll have a brand new 4K Neo QLED TV and we won't be throwing any popcorn at the TV.
I also saw a very recent movie of Anna Kendrick's. It's called Stowaway. It's a Netflix-produced sci-fi movie. Toni Collette's in it.
Oh, really?
I saw it at my sister's house with her and her boyfriend a couple weeks ago. It was really good. I was very surprised at how good it was. It didn't get great reviews, but I really enjoyed it, and she did a great job. It came out in 2021, and it's still on Netflix. So anybody who likes sci-fi movies, especially movies that happen in space, definitely give it a watch.
I will likely give it a shot. do love me some Toni Collette, and again, I like Anna Kendrick. I actually met Anna Kendrick very briefly on Sunset Boulevard outside the Sunset 5 Cinemas, way, way down on Sunset, across from the Laugh Factory. I was very stoned, and she was coming out of the parking garage and said, "Hey, Anna Kendrick!" And she looked at me and smiled and waved, and I said, "I love you and Scott Pilgrim!" And that was it. That was all. So she seems like she's very nice, as she plays in most of her movies, so I hope that's the case.
Considering she had an obnoxious stone guy yelling at her across the parking lot, and she didn't make a face, she is a good person.
She very likely is, yes. So hats off to you, Anna Kendrick, for being nice that day instead of telling me to fuck off.
Exactly.
So Noelle is set in the North Pole. Anna Kendrick plays Noelle, the title character. This movie originally was going to be called Nicole, but the writer and director Mark Lawrence decided to change it to Noelle because that makes a little bit more sense Christmas-wise.
Yes, thank God.
Yes, and if those of you that don't know Mark Lawrence by name, he is a very successful writer-director. He wrote and directed music and lyrics with Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore. He's actually an uncredited writer on my final pick of Last Christmas as well, The Santa Claus.
Nice.
Yeah. He also wrote Miss Congeniality.
Oh my God, no way.
Yes, and the sequel, which I still have never seen the sequel.
Right, we'll never watch the sequel, but that is awesome that he wrote Miss Congeniality.
Yes, Miss Congeniality is a great movie. And his latest one is what we are speaking of today, Noelle. Noelle is about the Kringle family, and Santa has very unfortunately passed away. Noelle is the young daughter of Santa Claus, Kris Kringle, Noelle Kringle. Julie Haggerty plays her mother, so we all know now that, just as we said before, Julie Haggerty plays Mrs. Claus, and Bill Hader plays Nick Kringle, who is now supposed to be Santa Claus. He's really not sure if he wants to be Santa Claus, and, just like anybody else that has to follow in their father's footsteps and run the family business, he's very much on the fence about doing this. He's not entirely sure how to figure out if kids are being naughty or nice. He has a lot of training in going down chimneys and trying to get the magic working, kind of similar to Violent Night, with going down different chimneys, and including the Santa Claus. When he goes down chimneys that actually don't have fireplaces, they appear and stuff like that. So Kris is in training, and he's getting a bit stressed out, and Noelle is really helping him out because she believes that he can be the next great Santa. Unfortunately, she also suggests that why doesn't he just take a few days off from the North Pole and go get some sun somewhere down below, down south, if you will, because they are in the North Pole. And so Kris decides to take her advice and takes off. And he never comes back. And it's now 5 days to Christmas, and Mrs. Kringle is very worried that Nick is not going to be back in time for Christmas. Noelle is also getting a bit worried, and Shirley MacLaine, who plays the head elf, is starting to think that maybe Noelle needs to go down to find her brother and bring him back. So at one point, Noelle finds out that Nick has actually, in fact, gone to Phoenix, Arizona. Of course, the desert wasteland of the southern states. It's not really a wasteland. I've been there many times, and it's a very lovely state and very lovely city. My wife's family actually lives there. It's just very hot. Yeah. So she decides to take the reindeer and sleigh down to Phoenix and rescue Christmas, bring Kris back. While this is all happening, the North Pole Council feels that they need to appoint a new Santa, just in case Noelle is unsuccessful, just in case she can't find Nick. So they enlist Billy Eicher, his character, to be the new Santa Claus because he is in fact their cousin. So he is going to be Santa Claus now. He plays Gabriel, and kind of funnily enough, he is the tech guy of the North Pole. So while Noelle is down south trying to bring Kris back to the North Pole, he's come up with a whole new algorithm to figure out how many nice kids are out in the world, how many naughty kids there are. He's come up with the idea that there's about 2,500 nice kids across the entire globe, and decides that he will send an email to all the children that don't fall under the nice list and tell them that they can appeal this decision for next Christmas. And he thinks that this is just a fantastic idea. He gets very Amazon about it, and wants to actually send presents the old-fashioned way through snail mail and not so much with the reindeer and sleigh because Noelle has the reindeer and sleigh down south.
Merry Christmas, elf folks. It's Santa Gabe. As you may know, my cousin Nick, the ex-Santa, never completed the nice or naughty list, but that's jolly because it allowed us to develop
forensic algorithm for lateral analysis of latent altruism. It's a digitized metric which allows us to determine a child's nice or naughty quotient. For instance,
Holy night.
this is Callie from Brooklyn. Using his internet activity, school records, and satellite surveillance, Falala was able to ascertain that he is nice, and he wants a PlayStation. We're now standardizing all packages in green, red, or, the best of both, swirl.
So while Noelle is in Phoenix, she hires a private detective to help her find her brother. He ends up finding him. He is now a yoga instructor in Phoenix, and he's very much happy with this decision of his. And throughout all of this, we're also finding out a little bit more about the Santa Claus folklore. You know, like if you are going to be Santa Claus, you're going to be able to understand all the languages of the world of the children. You're going to be able to figure out who's naughty or nice just by looking at them. Unfortunately, none of this is happening with Nick. He's just very content and happy with being in Phoenix, and he's very happy with his sunblock as well, because he's now a bit sunburned because of how hot it is in Phoenix. And for the rest of the movie, Noelle is basically trying to convince Bill Hader's character Nick that he needs to get back up to the North Pole and become Santa and save Christmas from Gabriel, who has now, come up with this brand new algorithm of figuring out how many nice children are across the globe. I have watched this movie every year since it came out in 2019 on Disney+. My wife is a big fan of it. She loves Anna Kendrick. She's a big Pitch Perfect fan. I kind of fell in love with this movie pretty quickly as well. This movie is also G-rated. This is not a PG-rated Santa Claus movie. There's no swear words in this movie. It's just a very sweet, very entertaining, albeit some of the CGI is not the greatest, considering we don't know what the budget was. But Noelle does have this kind of sidekick Snowball, this little white reindeer that follows her around at one point or another. And overall, the movie makes me laugh. I get a little choked up at certain moments in the movie. Again, we've watched it every year since 2019, and it makes me laugh, genuinely. I'm a big Bill Hader fan. I think he was very entertaining in this movie. The cast really did a great job. I thought the production design was very awesome. I thought the North Pole was pretty great. And Shirley MacLaine, again, and Julie Haggerty, together. Well, how can you really go wrong with that? So before we get into a little bit of the trivia of this movie, V, I know you've been dying to tell me what you thought about this movie, so I'm going to let you either tear it apart or tell me how much you loved it.
It is unequivocally the latter. I love this movie so much.
Oh, wonderful. I was seriously getting so worried when you texted me earlier today. I was like, you got to just tell me when we're recording, because I just need to naturally react to this. I'm so glad. I'm glad to hear that. Isn't it so sweet?
I adore this film.
Oh, wonderful.
I started it and I had no idea what to expect. I watched the trailer ahead of time just because you had pulled an audible, and so I just had to get in the right mind frame of what to expect at least. And I felt really good that you pulled an audible, because I have pulled several in the past year, so it's nice that you have now too.
Indeed.
And I was like, okay, cool. This is a Disney Plus produced movie. It seems sweet. Let's give it a shot. And I start the movie, and I go, Shirley MacLaine. Oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
I love Shirley MacLaine. She's great. I love her being the sassy older lady as she's gotten older in this industry and still worked. And just has this cool, like, I drink and tell it like it is aunt vibes that I really want to aspire to in my 60s and 70s. And so I was digging it. And then this script is so witty. The puns in this movie and how they use Christmas language.
Oh, yeah.
And completely immerse it in this script is just so brilliant. I really enjoyed it. And I could watch this movie again and again every Christmas. And I know I'll pick up new things every time I watch it.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many hilarious parts of this movie. I laughed out loud. Everybody wanting an iPad was so good.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
So great. Snowball, the baby magical reindeer, is so cute, and I want one. He's like a little baby goat. Suzanne, my oldest sister, you'll love Snowball, because he's so, oh my gosh, he's so cute. And like I said, he's like a baby goat. My sister Suzanne loves goats.
Oh, sweet.
The carolers that are like the backup singers to the plot of this movie,
so funny.
The plot move along, and they'll sing things, and you're like, did they just say that? It's so good. And yes, I just loved every single minute, and Anna Kendrick is the only person that could have pulled this off.
I completely agree.
Right?
We were watching it the other night, and I was trying to pseudo-universe who else could do this. I'm like, no, she's Noelle. Like, I don't think there could be anybody else that could pull what she pulls in this movie off the way she does.
Yeah.
And there's so much innocence to her character, and maybe Anna Kendrick as well. I don't know. But I just curled up on the couch and was just so happy watching this movie. And again, we've watched it every year, but like you said, you catch new things, and it's been in our life for quite a while, and every time we watch it, Amy always has to tell me, it's like, oh, well, when this part happens, it was storyboards. When this part happened, it was this. When I
that's
saw,
cute.
when I went to see the early screening of it. Again, I'm just like, man, I'm so glad that we have a new Christmas movie, G-rated, nothing offensive in this movie at all. Like, everything is so family-friendly. And the fact that, like you said, it can be laugh out loud, hilarious, and be family friendly with not only Anna Kendrick, but Bill Hader, the guy from Barry, and a
so
lot
good.
of R-rated comedies. Yeah, he really kills it as Nick. And I love when she finds him in the yoga studio, and he's just like, oh! Like
They get in an argument.
Oh, yeah, it was great. It's like, oh, hold on, they can't hear this. And he closes the little, like, fucking, of course they're going to be able to hear you. But yeah, no, it was
the
great.
bead curtain.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't think of the damn word. And when we were watching it this time, I looked down at me and Falcor's like snuggled up against me. I'm like, dude, we have a snowball. We got a little snowball with us. And I was like, Falky, you're our little snowball, buddy. So oddly enough, though, with Snowball, little baby or baby reindeer don't make that high pitched sound. It is very goat like.
Yes.
He's very much a goat reindeer.
He's buying like a little sheep is what he's doing.
A little bit.
As
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
who grew up on a farm, I'm like, that's a baby sheep. That's a lamb noise
Yes,
right there.
Exactly. And that's funny too, because Amy's always like, oh, Falky, you little lamb. So it's like we totally have our own Snowball
You
over
do.
here. And right now, with the cold weather, he's wearing his plaid blue and checkered sweater. So Snowball, unfortunately, doesn't have anything like that, but I do very much enjoy Snowball. And the crazy thing, too, about movies like this is when they have like a sidekick, if you will, like Snowball, you're like, okay, enough. They use him just enough.
Yes.
Like there wasn't an overuse of Snowball. It was like, okay, when Snowball shows back up again, you're like, oh yeah, Snowball.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, oh, I'm happy to see him again. It wasn't like, oh geez, it wasn't like in Wish where it's like, oh, the goat won't shut the fuck up. But I'm so glad that you enjoyed the movie, because again, when I watched it this time around and I was talking to Amy about what to do because I didn't want to do the movie I originally chose, I was like, what about Noelle? And Amy's like, oh, that would be a great one. I'm like, all right, cool. And I definitely was palms were sweaty all day. I'm like, oh boy, V is going to tear this movie apart. But no, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. It really is a great Christmas movie to have on every year for sure.
And I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's innocent, and not only the movie, but with Anna Kendrick as well, because she's innocent without being annoying or obnoxious.
Yes.
There's a very big plot of fish out of water in this movie because nobody's ever been allowed to leave the North Pole.
Right.
And so that gag throughout the movie with Anna Kendrick could have very easily become annoying very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Same with
Agreed.
Snowball, as you said, right?
Yes.
And instead, it just stays clever, it stays sweet, it stays innocent, that no part in this movie was like, oh, that's a little cringy.
Yeah.
Everything was so well written, so well acted. I definitely want to see more of Bill Hader's drama parts because, yeah, you're right. He's such a good actor. I really want to see the Skeleton Twins with him and Kristen Wiig. I've heard that's very good.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that is a good one. That's been on my list for years.
Same, right? And so I'm just delighted that you picked this film. It's absolutely going to be added to my list of Christmas movies. And
Wonderful.
I really want to introduce my nieces to this film as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If my nieces have not yet seen it, I would love to sit down and watch this with them at some point.
And like you said, it's rated G, so anybody can watch it.
Anybody can watch it. And that's another cool thing about it is, I've said it before, it's G-rated. I think I've done one other G-rated movie on this podcast, and it was Muppet Christmas Carol, and it was last year, which, of course, I watched this Christmas as well, and I actually now know some of the lyrics to some of the songs, like I did not know last year. But, yeah, the whole fish out of water thing's great. I love when she finds the private detective. I thought Kingsley Ben-Adir was very good.
Yes.
He recently, beyond this movie, which was in 2019, he plays the Black Ken in Barbie, which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I do remember remember him in that. And he was in King Arthur with Charlie Hunnam and Jude Law and Jaimin Hansu, directed by Guy Ritchie, which I think I have been on record on the podcast saying that I enjoyed that version.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's pretty badass.
I gotta watch it because I watched that remake of Robin Hood with Taron Egerton and I hated it. And so when King Arthur came out, I'm like, no.
Yeah, I watched it on streaming.
Yeah, I'm a huge Guy Ritchie fan. I need to give it a shot.
Well, of course, when it ended, I was like, shit, should have seen that in theaters because it had a lot of really cool action in it. But other than that, Kingsley Ben-Adir, I have not seen a whole lot of his work. So I really enjoyed him in this, and it made me want to actually seek him out and see what else he's done.
Yeah, and he is actually poised to play Bob Marley in next year's biopic One Love.
Oh my gosh,
We've
no
seen
way.
the trailers.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's killer. I didn't even recognize him.
Right?
That's amazing.
That's the thing. When I was watching Noelle, I'm like, I know this guy. I know this guy. So I was like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, John, I have to look up his credits. I was like, okay, Barbie and One Love. Okay, now I know.
Hell yeah. I've seen the One Love trailer a few times. I'm very much looking forward to that movie. I think
Same.
I hope that that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Anna Kendrick, we mentioned her filmography. Bill Hader, like I said, Barry, he's in Pineapple Express. He's in...
SNL.
Yeah, SNL, which actually some of my favorite stuff of his on SNL is a lot of the Christmas stuff that he did back in the day. I loved a lot of his Christmas stuff.
Like when they're all having their... I don't know if it's Christmas related. I think it is, though. But they have that little Christmas party and he's in the wheelchair. And his wife sits
yes.
on him.
Yes. And I think actually, he did take a dramatic turn in a horror movie recently from 2019. He was in It Chapter 2. He played older Richie, which I thought he was great in It Chapter 2. I know you haven't seen that.
No, but I did hear great things about it, and I do remember the trailer for that. That's right.
Yeah, very, very good movie. A great wrap-up. He's also the voice of Fear in Inside Out, which is one of my favorite Pixar movies.
But he's not the voice of Fear in Inside Out 2.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah, there are a couple of
why.
very key characters that they did not hire back for Inside Out 2 that makes me a little bit rageful.
Yeah, that's a little unacceptable. I'm not down with that.
Yeah, Tony Hale's going to be Fear instead.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I do love Tony Hale. I've worked with the
Same.
guy. He's a very, very cool guy. I mean, of course, I love Arrested Development, so...
But it sucks when they replace a beloved voice of a movie that you already enjoy.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Billy Eicher. He is the guy from Billy on the Street, if anybody's ever seen those internet videos. I actually had the opportunity to work on Billy on the Street, but I was already about 3 days from wrapping an absolute POS horror movie that I was second assistant director on, so I turned it down. It was Funny or Die produced. I still kind of kick myself in the ass for that one, but Billy on the Street is very entertaining stuff. He also voiced Timon in the atrocious Lion King remake. Nothing against you, Billy, just was not a fan of that movie. Mm-hmm. He also is in the film Bros, which I've still been meaning to see. I just haven't got around to it yet. It was the LGBT romantic comedy that came out last year. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I still plan on it because every time I see this guy, he makes me laugh. I think he's a very entertaining actor. He played Craig Middlebrooks on Parks and Rec. If anybody is a Parks and Rec fan, I thought he was hysterical on that. He's also in the sequel to Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. So he's definitely had a pretty good career. Julie Haggerty, we mentioned her career as well. A very entertaining woman. And Shirley MacLaine, I mean, where to begin? We've talked about her several times here, not only because of Terms of Endearment, even though I just only know that movie by name. I've never seen it. She was in 2 of your picks, V, to begin our podcast with The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
That's right.
And then very later on, when we did our Jack Lemmon and Billy Wilder episode in The Apartment, where she plays Fran.
Yes.
Very, very good actress. She's also in a couple episodes of Only Murders in the Building recently, which is pretty great. And I mean, just a career for the last, several decades. And like you said, she's really come into that character that she plays in this movie. And nobody's actually drinking alcohol. They're all drinking hot chocolate or eggnog. And it's still kind of adding to that little, family drunkenness, if you will, which
Yes.
I really, really liked.
She's slipping something into her hot chocolate.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Now, this movie was shot on location in Phoenix. The interiors of the mall, though, was actually shot in Georgia, and a lot of this movie was also shot in Canada. So, a lot of practical shooting, definitely pretty awesome, and of course, on the lot at Disney. I always wish that I was able to get on the Disney lot. I actually had been on the Disney lot once when I dropped Amy off to do a COVID test for a show that she was going to be doing background on. So, I did for about half an hour sit on the Disney lot, which was really, really cool. This movie started filming in 2017. I know I mentioned earlier that it originally was going to be released theatrically, but Disney decided to release it on Disney Plus. So I'm not sure, honestly, how popular it is, how many views it's had, how many minutes it's had, how Netflix is like, Red Notice had 7 billion minutes of views. It's like, congratulations, that's fantastic. Yeah, 3 minutes of those equate to a view, so it doesn't really mean that anybody actually finished watching that. I actually thought Red Notice sucked, but I know there's going to be a sequel.
Two guys who love playing themselves on film, Ryan Reynolds and The Rock.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Anna Kendrick has been in one other Christmas movie called Happy Christmas. I haven't seen it, but I'm definitely going to seek it out and give it a shot because, again, big fan of this one, big fan of her. I think this movie turned me into more of an Anna Kendrick fan than I was before. I really do like her in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and I don't think she's bad in Up in the Air. I just didn't think it was an Oscar-turning performance, personally.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
But she was very adamant about wanting to be in a Christmas movie that would be family-friendly, albeit maybe G or PG rated, and she really wanted to be in a movie that audiences would enjoy and that audiences would want to watch every Christmas and share with their families. So, seems like she succeeded with UV, definitely succeeded with myself and Amy, and I feel like this could be one that I could watch with my parents on Christmas Day, either before or after Elf, while everybody's still drunk and, getting into a food coma. But overall, very enjoyable movie. You can stream it on Disney Plus. It is in 4K, which is great if you have a 4K TV. And a lot of fun. And I'm just very happy, V, that you enjoyed it and that you plan on showing it to your family as well.
I absolutely do. I am so thrilled to have been introduced to this movie. Again, it's so cute, and I think any age would enjoy it because it's not too cutesy for kids, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, yes, thank you so much for introducing me to it. It's adorable.
Definitely. And like I said, this movie is streaming on Disney Plus. I hope that they never take it off. If it ever does come out on a physical copy, I will absolutely own this movie. I know my wife would be okay with that. So, V, again, glad you enjoyed it. Can't wait to hear what your family thinks. And look at that. You fell in love with another Christmas movie.
Well, I actually went through our podcast episodes this morning before we started recording. You batted 1,000 with Halloween and Christmas months this year.
Hell yeah!
I loved every single one you picked.
I'm so glad. Look at that. I'm doing pretty good over here.
You are, and like we said, you're turning me into a horror movie and Christmas movie fan.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, nicely done.
And I think we are ready to move along to your side of the finality of our Christmas month here at Movies You Miss Podcast with another wonderfully sweet film.
That just came out a couple years before yours did.
Just a couple.
This movie that I picked this week, I have been a fan of for quite some time because it, in fact, came out over a decade before yours did.
I was going to say, like 2 decades almost, no?
Oh, damn it, you're right.
Yeah.
Shit.
There was the teen years in the 2000s, and then there was the 90s.
I always block.
I always fuck that shit up. Because I'm like, oh yeah, 1992, 2002, 2022.
Exactly. Yes. And this movie only came out 15 years ago is what I'm trying to say, because I don't believe it was longer than that.
Oh, God, I know.
But in fact, this movie is almost 30 years old.
Yes.
Because it came out in 1995. I am talking
wow.
I am talking about the Sandra Bullock Christmas classic While You Were Sleeping.
Yeah.
Starring Bill Pullman, Peter Gallagher, Peter Boyle.
Hell yes.
Jack Warden, Glynis Johns, and directed by John Turteltaub. While You Were Sleeping is a movie that could have been made in 1995 and they totally could have gotten away with it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
It's sweet enough where it still really does hold up and it's not weird, but it's not a movie that'd be made today, honestly. And that's because the movie is about this lowly, lonely transit worker who takes tokens at the Chicago L train. She lives alone, she has a cat, and every morning this very handsome gentleman takes the train and drops the token at her booth, and that's what she looks forward to every day because, again, she's very lonely, and she has an inner monologue and a lot of imagination, and she just knows that if she ever got a chance to meet him and talk to him, they would fall in love and get married and run off into the sunset.
Yes.
One day, right before Christmas, he actually gets mugged on the platform. And unfortunately, the muggers knock him off into the tracks and he gets knocked out.
Yeah.
She heroically jumps out of her booth, down onto the tracks, and saves him from an oncoming train. They go to the hospital, he's still unconscious, and they're wheeling him away. And she says just to herself in passing, "I was going to marry him."
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a nurse overhears that. And one thing leads to another, and now his entire family believes that she is this man's fiance.
She's his fiance. He's engaged. So great.
And she does try to correct everyone, but it just really, using a holiday pun, snowballs.
Hey, Snowball's the name of the reindeer in my movie.
Exactly. And on top of that, like I said, she doesn't have any family. Her mother died when she was very little. Her dad just died a year ago. She's an only child. And so all of a sudden, she has this family hugging her and inviting her to Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas. And all of a sudden, she has this family again, and she's loved, and people care about her. And it becomes more and more difficult to tell them the truth. And in reality, she did save the guy's life.
Absolutely. Yes, she is a hero.
And so while this man, Peter, is in a coma, she continues to play off that she's his fiance.
Yeah.
However, his brother Jack is very suspicious, and they have a great back and forth on him trying to prove that she doesn't actually know him. And throughout this movie, she continues to learn more about this family, this man, Peter, that she has loved from afar, his brother Jack. She also really learns a lot about herself because she's really been in a rut for a really long time. She had dropped out of college to take care of her dad when he got sick, and now she's stuck just working for the transit authority. And, you know, she has a very sad life in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And it's still sweet to this day. I still really love it. It's a great holiday movie, and there is some fantastic chemistry in this film as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember watching this movie, I think, around when it came out on VHS. Like, I didn't see this movie in theaters, but I fell in love with it immediately. I was 9 years old, and I was like, I like this movie. Like, this is a good movie. And it's also not only a very sweet story, but it's really fucking funny, too.
It's really funny, and of course, as we've gotten older, we've gotten a lot more of the jokes.
Oh, definitely. Yes. This was actually the first time I watched this movie, and I'm not even lying to you, at least 10 years.
Oh, okay.
I do have a VHS copy of it, and I think I watched it maybe in 2012. That was like the last time I watched it. And I really enjoyed it. I think I also kind of had it on the background while I was maybe making dinner or something like that, but I remember loving it then too, and I'm just really glad that you chose it for wrapping up this month.
I'm so glad to hear that, and of course, that's always such a good litmus test for us. If one of us hasn't seen a movie either at all, like with Noelle this week, or hadn't seen it in a lot of years, it's fresh eyes, and so we can really confirm whether it's a good movie or just a nostalgia.
Right. There's definitely some nostalgia to this movie, but overall, it still holds up.
It really does, and I think a lot of that has to do, like I said, with Sandra Bullock. She plays this character so well. She is very innocent. She doesn't have any ill intentions, even though she is lying to this family. It's coming from a very good place. Like I said, as she continues to learn more about this family, this man who she supposedly loves who's in a coma, and then also his brother, played by Bill Pullman, Jack, things start to get even more complicated. And Sandra Bullock, who plays Lucy, and Jack have phenomenal chemistry. I love all their interactions together. And I really love this total meatball who's the super son, Joe Jr.
Oh, gosh. He is so great. So great. Michael Rispoli.
Yes, he's great. And
so awesome.
He keeps trying to date Lucy, and it's just not working, of course.
Yeah, not at all.
He's such a greaseball. But it's great comedic relief in this movie, too.
Oh, yeah. I love every time we meet him, he's pulling his pants up and his gut's kind of hanging out. And when
Gold
Jack
chain,
shows up,
the
yeah,
wife
he's like,
beater.
hey, do you know Lucy in whatever apartment? He goes, Noah, I'm dating that. Like, it's just like, oh, God, man. And I love the whole moment when he's like, you stood me up, and like walks in and like puts his hand up and just like walks into her apartment. She goes, what do you mean I stood you up? For the ice-capade, you stood me up.
She's like, I never said
So
yes.
funny. Yeah.
And then both him and Jack talk about leaning in.
Oh, that
which
was
is
so great.
good.
Look, it was just a misunderstanding, and on top of the Joe Jr. thing,
Excuse me?
nothing.
No, there's no nothing now. What Joe Jr. thing?
The leaning thing.
The leaning thing.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you mean by the leaning? Because he gave me flowers?
And then you leaned.
And then I leaned.
Yeah.
Okay. How did I lean when I leaned?
How were you leaning? Is
Yeah.
a lot different than hugging. Hugging's very different. Hugging, that involves arms and hands. And leaning is whole bodies moving in like this. Leaning involves wanting and accepting.
Hey, Luce. Is this guy bothering you?
No.
Are you sure? Because it looks like he's leaning.
Thank you. See?
So great.
And what is it about all these movies in the late 80s and early 90s that took place in Chicago?
Right? Yeah, Chicago or New York. That was it. Those were the two cities.
I mean, there's still movies that take place in New York now, but hardly
Right.
any ever take in Chicago anymore, right? It feels
I guess
like
that's true.
there was
Yeah.
this 10-year period with John Hughes, and then there was The Fugitive and this movie. That
Oh,
all
yeah,
these,
yeah.
Like, every movie took place in Chicago for a while.
That's true. And it was always cold. It was like never a hot summer day in Chicago. It was always fucking freezing.
Because Chicago is freezing in the wintertime.
Yeah. I've never been to Chicago. I've only been to the airport. Chicago is one of those cities that I still would love to visit and have some deep dish pizza.
So I've been there a couple times. It is a great city. I really love the architecture. There's some really wonderful culture, good museums, fun to go to sports games there too. Deep
Oh,
dish
yeah.
pizza is a casserole and it's disgusting and it's not real pizza.
You know, it's funny. I'm really not big on the deep dish either, but you know, you go to Chicago, you got to try a slice.
You do, yeah. It's definitely something that you have to try at least once in your life. And Chicagoans?
Chicagoans? Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. They love to remind you that deep dish pizza is not a regular occurrence, it's a special occasion pizza. So that puts things into
okay.
perspective too, which is nice.
I was going to say Chicagoans works with Chicagonites, but Chicagonites doesn't. I don't know if that's even correct. If we have any listeners in Chicago, let us know what you'd like to be called.
Yes, or at least Illinois. You probably will know.
There you go. Yes.
And so that is While You Were Sleeping. It's a great rom-com that takes place over the holidays. And I think another reason why it works so well is because of the phenomenal supporting cast.
Oh, God. Hell yeah. Amazing supporting cast.
Peter's entire family is full of legends.
Yes, indeed.
First, of course, let's talk about Sandra Bullock. Funny enough, I picked Practical Magic for episode 82, and then within 2 months, I had picked another Nicole Kidman and another Sandra Bullock movie, which is pretty
Hell
great.
yeah.
As a reminder, some of our faves, or at least my faves, but I'm pretty sure you love them too, of Sandra's are Speed.
Well, it's one of those movies that I still have to rewatch, but I do remember liking it except for the jump over the freeway.
I watched it this year. It totally holds up except for the jump over the freeway.
Oh, sweet. Perfect.
Miss Congeniality that we just talked about.
Oh, hell yeah. And again, that's another movie, not only because of Sandra Bullock's supporting cast, Benjamin Bratt's great, and Michael fucking Caine is awesome.
Amazing in that film.
So
I
good.
love him in that film so much, and we're probably going to fight over who covers that film on this podcast.
I think I can let you take that one.
Oh, thank you. And then more recently, she's in The Heat, Ocean's 8, which I love both of those films.
I still haven't seen The Heat.
Oh, God, it's so funny.
Okay. That's an R-rated her and Melissa McCarthy, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I got to check that one out.
And she's also in the guilty pleasure, Demolition Man.
Oh, yeah, which is on your list because I have not seen that one.
That's right. I think I'm going to pair it with Starship Troopers.
All right. Well, Starship Troopers, fantastic.
Yeah.
Any excuse to watch Starship Troopers.
Exactly. And back to While You Were Sleeping, Bill Pullman plays Jack, the brother.
Hell yeah.
He, of course, was in Spaceballs, a movie neither of us are a fan of.
Yeah.
He's in the classic Christian Bale Newsies.
Is he really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
He is in A League of Their Own. He plays Bob, Gina Davis's husband in that film.
Yes. You know, I really like that movie.
I love that movie. He also is in the Kevin Costner version, Wyatt Earp, that came out right around the same time as Tombstone, but was not as good. But Bill Pullman was in Wyatt Earp, and he was good in it. He, of course, is in Casper.
Yes. Oh, my wife and I watched that around Halloween this year. That movie is good.
It's great.
Casper is good, and the special effects for the year that it came out
still hold up.
So fucking good.
Yeah, that's a sweet film we should definitely cover.
Hell yeah.
He is also in one of your all-time favorite movies.
Hell yes, he is. As President Whitmore in Independence Day, and he returns as President Whitmore in Independence Day Resurgence, which is very so-so.
Yeah, I never watched it. I didn't want to ruin the original.
Yeah, I should have done the same, but I still enjoyed moments of Independence Day Resurgence.
He is also in a creature feature guilty pleasure of mine because I love creature features. He's in Lake Placid.
Oh, yeah! With Oliver Platt and Bridget Fonda.
Is not a good film.
No, it's not. Have you heard the How Did This Get Made episode on that one yet? Oh my gosh. So fucking fantastic.
So good.
So good.
He's in the first two Equalizer movies with Denzel. And more recently, he is in a phenomenal film with Mark Ruffalo called Dark Waters. All about how a big chemical company has poisoned the waters and then the earth because it's called a forever chemical that just never goes away. It's like the chemical they use on Teflon. And it's horrific. It's such an important watch. I highly recommend it. It is a dramatized version of this story, but it is based on a true story. And it's, Mark Ruffalo's great. Bill Pullman's great in the movie too. Highly recommend it. It's called Dark Waters.
I remember when that came out, I actually did want to see that one, and I think I got it confused with Dark Water with Jennifer Connelly. So I think I was like, wait a minute, I thought this was already a movie however many years ago. So I should check. I actually have never seen either of them, so I should check out Dark Water and Dark Waters.
Yes. And then he's also in a TV show that my mother and my sister absolutely love called The Sinner.
Oh, Jessica Biel, right?
Yes, it's a crime show. It's dark and good. If anybody likes Mindhunter, similar shows like that, definitely give the Sinner a watch. It's really good.
Yeah, Amy and I have actually been meaning to watch The Sinner, so I did not know Bill Pullman was in it. Awesome.
The thing I really love about it is that every season it's a new case, but he is a consistent thread in it as a cop.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was only one season. There's multiple.
There's multiple, I think 3 now. Jessica Biel is producing the show, but she's also in the first season.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Peter Gallagher plays Peter. He's got a lot of work in this movie because he's a comatose guy.
Yeah,
I know. He just lays there the whole time.
What a terrible day on set for him.
I mean, as long as he's comfortable in that hospital bed.
I guess, yeah.
But yeah. And one quirk about the movie that we always like to celebrate here, his name is Peter Gallagher, and he plays Peter in the movie.
Indeed. I have had the pleasure of working with Peter Gallagher.
Really?
Yes, I worked with him on season 5 of New Girl. He plays Schmidt's dad. And he showed up one day, almost hit me with his Range Rover, but he didn't hit me at base camp at Fox Studios. He's a super fucking cool dude, like a really, really awesome guy. All day he kept joking about how he was going to hit me later on his way out.
That's awesome.
And I was like, if you want to, because I could get a lot of money from you if you do. But no, he never did hit me with his car, but he and I, he showed up for several days, and he was always like, good thing I didn't get you with my car today. I'm like, No, very, very nice guy. We had a lot of really fun conversations. Actually, one about While You Were Sleeping. More of me just being like, I really love While You Were Sleeping. I know you just sleep in that movie. And he goes, no, it was a great shoot. I'm like, all right, good.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. And, that's the thing, though, because as an actor, he absolutely could have come out of his car screaming at you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so that's cool to know he was chill.
Yeah, he was a very cool dude.
And now, in the 2000s, he is very good at playing the very hot dad.
Is that right?
As you said, he is the dad in New Girl. He was the hot dad in the OC. Also the hot dad in Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Oh, okay. I remember when that show was out.
Yeah, and
I never watched it, but I remember it.
Oh, I watched the first season and it's great. Unfortunately, it was canceled unceremoniously, as happens with TV shows, and it was super lame.
Yeah.
He's also in Grace and Frankie.
Is he really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. I watched some of Grace and Frankie. It wasn't a terrible show.
Oh, I think it's hilarious. Peter Boyle plays Ox, their father, Jack and Peter's father, that is. We spoke about him on 2 episodes of this podcast already.
Yeah.
Because he plays Frankenstein's monster in Young Frankenstein from episode 76.
Hell yeah.
And then much earlier, in fact, 1 year ago, almost exactly 1 year ago, he is in The Santa Claus, which was your last pick of last year, episode 37.
Look at that. Awesome. That's right. He is. Oh, man. What a career.
Yes. And Jack Warden plays Saul, Peter's godfather.
Oh, love that guy.
I loved him in The Replacements, which is
hell yes.
the Gene Hackman, Keanu Reeves football movie, which is terrible, but I don't care because I love it.
I love that fucking movie. It's so underrated. I think it's hysterical. I think that movie is awesome.
Oh my God. And Jon Favreau is in that movie as a muscle-bound dude.
That's right, he is. Oh, man. We might have to throw it on the podcast.
Oh my God, I think we do.
That is definitely an underrated movie, for sure.
Anyone who listened to our 4 Christmases episode last week, you know what I'm talking about when I'm mentioning Jon Favreau.
Hell yes.
So Jack Warden is in The Replacements. He's kind of the football team owner. And he's also in this movie with Sean Connery called The Presidio that came out in the 80s that I really liked, that my dad introduced me to when I was a teenager. He's in the classic All the President's Men with Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman. He's in Brian's Song, the classic, even though it's a TV movie, James Caan movie. He plays their coach. And then he's also in From Here to Eternity, another classic.
Oh, yeah. And
the best single location movie ever made, he's in 12 Angry Men.
That's right, he is.
He's juror number 7. So Jack Warden had a fantastic career as well. He and Peter Boyle both died in 2006.
Wow.
5 months apart.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
Yeah, which is a bummer. Great guys. I'm glad we get to talk about them on this podcast, though.
Hell yeah.
And then lastly, Glynis Johns plays the grandma in this movie.
Yay.
Oh, speaking of G-rated movies that you've picked.
Oh, yes.
That's another one, because in episode 47, you picked Mary Poppins.
That's right.
She plays Mrs. Banks, the mom.
Winifred, indeed.
Oh, she's
the
awesome.
Sister Suffragette.
Oh, I love her so much in that film.
I do too. She's so great.
And as I mentioned, John Turteltaub is the director of this movie. He directed, I'm going to use your word, masterpiece.
Yes.
The Three Ninjas.
Oh, hell yeah. That is classic 90s fare.
It
for
is.
Sure.
It is. But he also directed some very good films. He directed Cool Runnings.
Oh, yeah. Great movie.
Phenomenon with John Travolta.
That is a good one. I think Kira Sedgwick's in that one also.
She is. That's right. And John Turteltaub is officially a National Treasure because he directed National Treasure 1 and 2.
Hell yeah.
He more recently directed The Meg.
Oh, boy. I still haven't revisited The Meg 2, The Trench. I might do a double feature one day because I don't hate The Meg, but it's not great.
Yeah, but 2 is just god-awful, right?
Well, again, I had a really terrible theatrical experience. It was, I can't hold the movie against the theatrical experience of really stupid parents letting children run around a movie theater.
Yeah.
So I can't really say that the movie was really that bad.
Okay, but everybody
really
else
pay too much
did.
attention. That's true, they did.
Everybody else
I just feel like I need
terrible.
to give it, I need to give it its due, though, with myself and actually watch it again.
And so, as I said, this movie was made in 1995. It actually wasn't originally going to be a Christmas movie.
Oh.
It was released in April of 95, but it takes place over Christmas. It's very much considered a Christmas movie these days. But the studio wanted it set during the holidays because it would be easier to sell. So that's
interesting.
how we now have this classic Christmas film.
All right. Well, that's cool.
And the funny thing is, as we talked about the plot being a little bit iffy these days, but the original screenplay was about a woman in a coma and a man pretending to be her fiance. And the studio execs were like, that is way too predatory. Let's stay away from that. And so they reversed the roles instead. And now that's why it's still a classic movie and still pretty innocent, which is fair.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I guess that does make sense. Yeah, if a man's like, oh, I was going to marry her. And yeah, I guess it would look really twisted.
Well, it's very Sleeping Beauty vibes.
A little bit.
And there's a scene in the beginning of this movie where a paper boy is riding his bicycle.
Yes.
In Chicago in December. And he slips off his bike. That was completely accidental.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, the poor kid actually did fall and break his wrist.
Oh, snap.
Literally.
That's terrible.
You totally did that on accident, did you?
What?
You totally did that on accident, didn't you?
Did what?
The snap, and he broke his wrist.
Oh. Didn't even fucking register. Wow.
But so poor kid, especially since now his break and crash has been immortalized on film.
Oh, yeah. If I were that kid, though, all I would do is tell everybody that I actually broke my wrist on that movie. Hopefully back then, productions were a lot nicer than they are now, and they actually took care of everything and got the ambulance for him and all that stuff.
I hope so. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I've broken my wrist before. It sucks.
Oh, I've broken my left wrist twice, and it really sucks. Because I'm a lefty. Yeah, it was bad. I was roller skating, and I snapped it in half.
Both times, or what was the
sucked.
second time?
No, the second time I was running down a hill, and I tripped, and I used my dominant hand to stop myself, and
pulled a
snap.
Chris Farley or
a Hot Rod. Something like that, yeah. Not as graceful as in Hot Rod, but it was pretty bad. It hurt really bad.
It does.
That's all
good.
Sucks. It was years ago.
Yep. And Glynis Johns, as we said, the actress who plays Mrs. Banks in Mary Poppins, she is this very sharp little grandma in this film. And one of my favorite lines of the whole movie is when everybody's passing out eggnog.
Oh, excuse me.
I don't drink anymore.
Oh.
I don't drink any less either. Perhaps I should.
I love that moment.
And the funny thing is, Jack Warden, who plays Saul in the film, he actually delivered the same exact line 31 years earlier in the show Bewitched.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so they brought it back, and I thought that was a cool nod.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I bet you this shoot was really fun.
Oh, I can only imagine how much fun everybody had on this one.
Yeah, and as you said, you have worked with Peter Gallagher. I have spent a day with Sandra Bullock before. They're both fantastic people. Sandra Bullock was incredibly kind and patient and just very chill. So if those are the leads in this movie, I can imagine this shoot was pretty great.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, and this movie had a $17 million budget.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. In the U.S. box office, it made $81 million.
Nice.
And John, since we don't have box office numbers for your film this week, I'm going to flip the script a little bit.
Okay.
Can you guess how much money While You Were Sleeping made worldwide?
Ooh, let's see. 81 million U.S. box office, $17 million budget, Sandra Bullock, Bill Pullman. Worldwide, I'm going to guess it was in the 133 to 142 ballpark.
Close-ish. And now you know that this is not an easy game.
No, it's not.
It actually made $182 million.
Whoa, wow. I actually almost guessed 200, but that's damn nice.
Right?
$100 million more worldwide over the U.S. box office. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, off a $17 million budget. So congratulations to everyone.
Fuck yeah.
That's the kind of movie you wish you had back points on, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so that's While You Were Sleeping. Funny enough, it is also on Disney+.
Yes, it is. That's how I watched it.
Because it was a Hollywood Pictures film, which was a small production studio in the 80s and 90s, that then was bought by Touchstone Pictures.
Oh yeah, Touchstone.
Which was then gobbled up by Disney.
Indeed.
So you can actually, for one of the first times on this podcast, watch both of our picks off the same streaming service this week.
Hey, look at that. I did not put that together. That's awesome. Hell yeah.
So, John, it sounds like it was great to revisit this movie after 10 years, and it still holds up in your mind?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I laughed a whole bunch and definitely felt warm and cozy at the end of this one.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. And I think because of the generation that we grew up in, and like we talked about so many films set in Chicago. Oh, my God. Oh, Home Alone. There's another one, right?
There it is. Yep.
And National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
That's right.
So when I see a movie set in Chicago in the wintertime, it just reminds me of Christmas, and I definitely connect Chicago with Christmas time when I'm watching movies, so
Definitely.
I think this is another film that adds to that.
Except for Home Alone 2 when he's lost in New York.
But they start in Chicago.
They do start in Chicago.
At that sweet-ass house.
Oh, hell yeah.
That to this day we still want to know how his dad afforded.
Yeah.
So, John, would you watch Noelle with your grandma?
I definitely would have. I know my grandmother would have loved it. There's no
Aw.
doubt in my mind. She would have thought it was the cutest thing in the world.
Good.
Yeah. V, would you watch while you were sleeping with your grandma?
I would watch it with anyone in my family. It's a very sweet rom-com. There's no sex scenes. There's nothing explicit. There's no nudity.
Yeah.
Very little cussing.
I don't even remember any.
There's very little cussing because it's rated PG.
Yes.
So we both picked very tame movies this week.
Indeed we did. And that's not the worst way to go out for 2023.
No,
and
it's
Christmas.
like a warm blanket.
Indeed it is.
Well, I think that does it for the year 2023 at Movies You Miss Podcast.
That does wrap us up here at 2023 until, of course, we do our 2023 wrap-up in just a few weeks.
That's right. In the meantime, we are going to start off the year 2024 with a bang, as we always do, so please stay tuned for that.
Hell yeah.
So we absolutely hope you join us for next year and a whole slew of new movies to review and recommend.
Hell yes.
Really excited to continue this podcast with you.
As am I. It's been one of my favorite gifts every week.
Oh, right back at you, buddy. I also love what it's done for our friendship.
Oh, absolutely.
We now talk every
It's gotten
single
worse.
day. Hey! Well, that wraps up 2023.
Yep, 2023, end of the podcast. 89 episodes. 20 away from 69. Nice. No, for sure. Definitely stronger. We talk every day. It's awesome. I'm very much a fan.
Good, me too. And as always, to continue hearing from us, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. We are at 5,500 listens. We're super stoked for that number. Thank you to everyone who has been with us from the beginning or joined us along the way. We appreciate each and every one of you and can't wait to continue recommending movies to you next year.
Absolutely.
And of course, as you all know, we like to end the podcast with film is a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid, except if you think
G-rated movies can't have enough adult content in it to be enjoyable.
There you go. I wholeheartedly agree.
Sweet.
Nice. And a nice, sweet, except if you think, to round out the year as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everyone. We will see you in 2024.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Bye-bye.